Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life After Kids with Doctors Brooke and Lynne. I'm Dr. Brooke.
I'm Dr. Lynne.
And we're so glad you're here today.
We are. We're talking about being introverted or extroverted. So we've got Exhibit A over here, Miss Extroverted, and Exhibit B. But this is a really important conversation before you write this off and think, oh, I know what I am and what does that mean to anything. Yeah. First, we want to go through our definitions, right? Because I think it's misunderstood. And a lot of times we lump people who are introverted into, well, they're quiet, they're awkward, they're shy, they're maybe nerdier or what have you. I mean, those are definitely the perceptions we had when we were in high school, right? When we were younger.
Yep.
But our definitions are a little bit more robust, and you can have people who are introverted who are actually very outwardly
that you would never guess.
Great with people.
It's amazing the amount of people that I act like I know them. I don't. Like people that are speakers, like motivational speakers or like influencers or authors or whatever, that are like have so much stage presence and like seem to be so outgoing, and they're actually introverted. I'm like, how is that possible? So go on. I don't know.
Some of the best speakers I know, that's such a great point, are introverted. And then actually some people that think they're introverted are actually extroverted, right, according to the definition. So the definition for introverted is that you recharge your batteries. So both definitions have to do just how do you recharge? Like how do you get your batteries back up on full? So with introverts, they recharge your batteries by being alone, sitting quietly, literally being alone. With extroverts, when you're around people, when you're with people in different numbers of groups, that's how you get your batteries recharged.
Yeah, and it's such a different perspective, right? Because I think that I tend to be extroverted. I'm definitely like outgoing and I'm a talker, but I feel like, and I don't know, do you think this can shift some in people? People change?
Because I think it definitely can, and I think it's a spectrum. So, right? So we all know those people that are just the wallflowers, and then we know the people that are just the life of the party, and they're out there and they love cocktail parties and meeting new people, and you know, there's some strengths that go hand in hand with that are really identifiable.
And Enneagram too.
But you know, it definitely can shift based on your life circumstances and you know where you are on that spectrum can shift.
And the reason I bring that up is because I feel like I would always typically label myself, and I don't like labels, but think of myself as an extrovert. But also I feel like the older I get, the more I find I'm recharging my batteries. Like I just want a quiet night alone with my book.
Yeah.
And I'm like so happy with that. And it does, and it recharges me. It's not necessarily the out and about with all the people.
Yeah. Well, and I think we do need a mixture of both, right? So even as an introvert, I crave to be around people, and it's not like I shy away from that. It's just that when I leave that scenario, this is how you know I have to then go inward, because I have been drained somewhat. Even though I got a lot of deposits out of that by being with people who I care about, and you know, we have good conversations and laugh, it takes more out of me than I realize. And so if you are in that situation and that isn't you, where you sort of crash, then you kind of know that you're at least not so extroverted on that introverted on that introverted scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And I've seen this in action for you, because when we travel with our mastermind, I mean, it's like all in, like social, you're go. There's tons of people there, all people you love, all filling your cup. But I also see you as the weekend goes on, like you're ready to go home, and you typically need a couple days to just recharge. And it's been a lot.
And you want your cup filled by people, and you know it's a short, fleeting time, so you take advantage of it. But yeah, definitely as an introvert, then I come home and I need more quiet time. And these were conversations. So if you are an introvert, usually you're attracted to, in marriage, not always, but often, to the opposite of you. So we see that a lot.
Yeah.
And in fact, when two extroverts marry or two introverts marry, they're going to have some hosts of problems that they have to kind of navigate around.
Yeah.
So it's often that you're paired up with the opposite of you. And so having that conversation with your husband, with your whoever, was really pivotal, because my husband is so extroverted. Again, on the spectrum, the more extroverted you are, it seems like the more introverted you choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus midline. But he would almost take it personally and say, well, what's wrong? He would come home from work and we got done with a lot of people and we were together all day, and he'd be like, okay, what do we want to watch? What do we want to do? And I'm like, I just need to sit here alone, but I still love you.
Yeah.
And we had that conversation, and he got it, luckily, and he understood. And he gave me that first hour afterward, and then I was ready to kind of come back after processing and sitting with the day.
Yeah, and I think, this is why we talk about getting to know yourself better. Through whatever, it could be self-reflection, it could be strengths, it could be Enneagram, and that's not going to necessarily tell you whether you're an introvert or extrovert. It could give you some pieces of the puzzle, but my point is here, when you know yourself better, and when you know those you love better, those in your immediate sphere, it allows you to be more gracious to yourself and forgiving, be more comfortable with yourself, and then make the allowances you need for everyone to be happy.
Absolutely.
So, for example, in mine and Ken's relationship, and I do tend to lean at least more extroverted than you, but I also like my downtime, whereas Ken is like Mark, and he will go he's number one woo is too, so he's extrovert. I don't know how you can be number one woo without being extroverted. Well, I guess, I don't know, you would know that better than me, but anyway,
I would like to see that.
he is always ready to go. So I've gotten to the point through the years where, like, for example, we live in a neighborhood, where it's on a cul-de-sac, there's a couple homes, but everybody's super friendly with each other, and there might be like a get-together in the evening or whatever, and there have been times where, like, they're all getting together and I don't feel like going, because I've had especially when I was in practice full time, I've talked to people all week, which I love, by the way, but by the time I got to Friday, I was like, I just need like some quiet. But then he would want to go. So rather than us be like pushing, like we both have to do this or we both have to stay home, we got to the place where it was like, okay, I need my time, but you're going to be filled out by going out. Go have a nice time. Tell everyone I said hi. Enjoy yourself. And I had my night at home, and it was quiet, like everybody else was doing something, so I could watch a movie that I liked, and I didn't feel bad about it.
Back to that piece about just self-awareness and knowing who you are, and a little bit better. That is such a key piece, because especially with this, it all comes down to you can better meet your needs, right? So going back to that's what you needed in that situation.
And I felt better for it.
Yeah, but if you don't quite understand it, if you don't really have it, like, ownership of those things, and we're not trying to put you in a box when we label you. We're trying to help you get yourself out of that box, because that awareness helps you to step out and be more of who you are with that understanding, because you're not going to then violate those barriers and those boundaries that you need to meet your needs. Does that make sense?
It does, and it allows you to function at a higher level. Yes. Because you can fill in the gaps for some of the areas you're weak, but you can give yourself the allowances or do the nurturing things that you need to in order to perform at your highest level, which is what I want, to show up as my best self.
Absolutely. Sorry. And you can better, you can better communicate yourself to others. And if you're an introvert, we have a harder time with that, as I said. And sometimes, and I know you have an example about this, but sometimes, more than anything, introverts really do want to be seen and heard. We really do. We just have a harder time communicating, and sometimes it's perceived as aloofness, as like it's really shyness, but it can be like, oh, she's stuck up, or but
what's wrong with her?
And there's extroversionness or introversion, and then there's shyness. So those do overlap. So those are separate issues, but they really do go hand in hand. And I guess what I'm trying to say about that is just remember those differences. But extroverts are so outwardly validated because it's so easy to like an extrovert. Who doesn't like a person who's easy to chat, who is bubbly, effervescent? But the introverts, we need them as well. They have so much to offer, and just keep that in mind, that we balance each other, that yin and the yang.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think you may know more about this than me, but from my perception is you can be an introvert who has that stage present and that being able to talk and be outgoing, but you fill yourself up by being quiet in a way, but you could also be that more stereotypical introvert where you tend to hold back a little bit, or be a little, takes a while to get to know others and open yourself up, right?
Absolutely. And that person is probably the better understood, because that's the stereotypical. So go back to the example of the person on the stage. And if you aren't aware of all of those nuances, then you're behind the stage and you get the opportunity to meet that person who just comes off and they've been so charismatic, but likely they're so passionate about that topic.
Yeah.
So very often introverts can't get up and talk about a myriad of things, but they can go deep into the thing that they're passionate about, right? Whereas extroverts, you could put my husband on stage and he could talk about a lot of different things, and he gets filled up by that.
Yeah, so they do go hand in hand.
Right, but that person will walk off the stage, and what would your snap judgment be when that person's just sort of quiet and doesn't give you much? Oh, well,
Yeah. Or they're at a table with, like 2 or 3 other couples and they're not speaking a lot. And you're thinking, it's different.
So just keep in mind that that person's probably just trying to regain from having given a lot of energy. And having some energy drain. And if you take the time to get to know them and understand that, that's a really, building that bridge with that person. Huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And you mentioned that I have an example here, and I don't know if you would share this story, but this is not to make you feel bad, or to make, and by the way, I cleared it with Lynn that it was okay to share this. So I'm not being a jerk and overstepping or like throwing stones, but
I'm totally transparent in that area.
Well, and it's a good conversation, because I think as women, we we just need to give ourselves forgiveness. But anyway, let me get to the point. So we talked a couple weeks ago in an episode about table talk, right? And so we were in a situation, and I actually think I brought this up, but I didn't tell the full story, where you wanted everybody at the table was, to the person to the left, say one word that describes your first impression. And there was a woman there who I didn't know well at the time, but she's like very, very good friend
and a major extrovert. We're setting up for misunderstanding right from the start.
Yes, but you guys have been friends now. This has been an ongoing relationship. So you guys have known each other for years, right? Before, even several years before this conversation. But anyway, she had to give the one word that described Lynn. And she, by the way, she is a lovely human being.
Be surprised.
But her word was frigid. And I, as Lynn's best friend, and I'm an Enneagram 6, so I'm also super loyal. I was ready to what the F is wrong? I was like, for one split second, I was like, I cannot believe what is happening right now. And Lynn recovered, it was 1 second, and then Lynn started laughing like I thought you were going to pee your pants. And you were laughing so hard, and she started laughing, and you were like, this is where the table talk, you can have a good conversation. But you were like, you're right, because
You know what was refreshing about that is, and this is a whole separate conversation, but sometimes we just want people to speak what we think they might be thinking. It's the directness and the frankness can be refreshing, because it allowed us to be like, oh yeah, I think I can come across that way because of my introversion. And hey, it's good to know that, you thought that, but and thanks for telling me. And now we work through it. So it was, you have to laugh at yourself. And it goes back to
what I love about you.
Yep. And it goes back to your beliefs. So I've worked really hard on trying to not have that limiting belief of myself as that introvert, going back to when I was a teenager and when I was very shy and could not break out of my shell. Because I've come a long way. And I think that the outward perception is more, reliable than sometimes what that limiting belief that you have about yourself from going way back. And we need to let that go, because who I am at 47 is not who I was at 15, but sometimes we carry those beliefs about ourselves. And then when we go into an interaction, that's what people pick up, because that's what we think about ourselves. So it's ongoing work.
Right. And the reason I bring this conversation up around the introvert and extrovert is, guys, give women, especially women, we do this to each other, give people that maybe people that you don't know well, give them a little grace, because how many times have you been out getting to know someone, or at a party or social gathering, and you don't know the person well, but in your mind you're like, what's her problem? Why is she cold or stuck up or whatever? And it's not. It's in your case, you're a little introverted, and it takes a while for you to right?
To warm up or to be
you
trusting.
get to warm up, and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Give them some grace and be kind. That's
I love
the
that.
thing.
And then the other side of that, I would say that first impressions are important because it's really hard to let go of meeting somebody for the first time and having a bad impression. So introverts, you have to work on just letting go of, you know, some of that anxiety around meeting people. And that's where that self-awareness piece really helps. And, you know, just bring forth the best of what you have to offer. Chances are your introverts are some of the best, most loyal, best friends because they have great advice because they're observant. They sit back and they watch and they see all of the layers of what's happening around them. So they really have good observation. So stand in that and know that you bring that forward and just, you know, shake a hand and look in the eye and practice that.
I love it.
And make a good impression wherever you can.
And by the way, as we close, that same person that said you were frigid at that dinner table followed with the story of, but I knew that she was going to be a good friend the night we were all out, and Lynn danced herself out of the room and she was leaving the party. So you can pull from all spectrums, my friend.
And introverts can, when we're in a group of people, right, that we know, then a lot of times we open up and we kind of look at those people and go, where did that come from? So,
guys, such a great conversation. Always great to talk to you and laugh with you.
Connecting with you guys.
Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, www.lifeafterkids for the website and the Life After Kids program.
Make it an awesome week.